Hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome to Life on Purpose. I invite you to join in on this journey to live a life of deep meaning and intention. I am so glad to be talking to my good friend Lorraine today. I can't even remember how many years I've known you, Lorraine.
Oh, it's been a long time. We moved to Colorado when Camille was 3. So she's 18 now. So
Yes,
it's been a while.
it has. It's been a while. So I'm going to introduce Lorraine and then we are going to get into talking about her. And I'm so excited for her. I wanted to have a discussion today with Lorraine because I'm so excited for her venture and how she is going to be such a help to people in this world. So, Lorraine Wagenman was raised in a small country town in Idaho. She attended Brigham Young University, earning a master's degree in mathematics before taking a job at Raytheon Missile Systems as a radar engineer. I am just so impressed by that because I think I have the smartest friends ever and I love it. She is married to Seth Wagman, becoming an Air Force wife and an instant mom. Together, they have 5 children, ages 5 to 18. After several military moves, they are now enjoying retired military life and have settled in Ohio. I'm so lucky, just
I
down the road
know.
a ways from me. It's so fun. And Lorraine is a life coach school certified coach. She helps women discover what is keeping them from loving themselves so they can build an amazing life. Oh,
We
I
all
love
need
that.
that, don't we?
I love that. Oh my goodness. In her spare time, Lorraine loves reading, playing piano, working math puzzles. That's amazing. Going for walks and playing games with her family. And before we talk more about you and your certification as a life coach, Lorraine has like undying discipline and is such a good example. So I remember back in the day, we would get up at I don't even know what time. Was it 4 a.m.?
It was a ridiculous hour to get up. That's for sure, whatever it was.
I never remember you complaining, at least aloud. And you always have such a good positive attitude. And so we would go and you would walk around the track. And I was training for a 10K, I think, at that time. And so I ended up running the Boulder, which was a huge accomplishment for me. And then I went on to complete the Air Force Marathon later. And you pushed me to do that. So I appreciate you showing up in my life and
Well, I appreciate you pushing me to do it too, because I know once you couldn't come, I think I went like twice and did it by myself, and then I was done.
we need each other, right?
That's
Is
right.
that
We
what you're
really do.
saying? We need our friends in our life. So I just love that I know you, Lorraine. I'm so glad to talk with you today. So, what do you want to add about you? Anything else you want to tell us about
I've
yourself?
been thinking about that. That's a really hard question. Like, what? I have this nice little resume of things I've done, but that's not really who we are. And
Mm.
so I thought, who am I? And I am a wife. I'm a mother, a sister, daughter, a friend, and most important, I'm Christian. I follow Jesus Christ, and that's like the biggest part of my life. I love to serve others. I volunteer in a second grade classroom every week which my daughter loves to have her mom come. I At church I work with 12 and 13-year-old girls who are just amazing. I think I'm a good listener, and this last year I've rekindled just a love for reading. I actually a few weeks ago made a list, and I listened to and read over 100 books last year, which is just like amazing. Like, yeah.
That is totally amazing. So,
And so blessed my life. Like, yeah.
so tell me what was do you have one particular book in mind that was really enjoyable or that just sticks out in your mind that you would want to recommend? I
I
know I'm putting
read
you on this spot.
so many books. Golly. Um, some that were like nonfiction. I think my favorite nonfiction book was called is Self Compassion by Kristen Neff. It really impacted the way I think about myself and how I talk to myself. Um, Golly, nonfiction. I feel like nonfiction is amazing because we get like I think whatever book you read last is like your favorite one, right? Because you imagine yourself in different situations or you understand the world differently. And so I don't know if I could pick one because it's like, I don't know, they all just kind of blend into one beautiful. I will tell you my very favorite nonfiction book, which I didn't read last year, is Remembering Isaac.
Oh, yeah,
I think I shared that book with you before. It's
yeah.
about a man who is a potter, and it's just a wealth of stories. So it's by John Behunin, or no, not John. Last name is Behunin, and I would recommend. I always recommend it to
Yes.
everybody.
And actually, this past week, someone from Colorado that we were friends with also brought up that book recently.
Ben, that's his name. Ben Behunin.
Yes, yes, and so that's so neat. That is a book that just is classic. Thank you for sharing that with us, and I wanna go back to probably the more important thing that you were talking about as far as these pieces of your identity and who you are at the core, because I think sometimes as women, especially, we identify ourselves with the things we do, right? And
Yes.
the like, oh, who we are to other people. And so I love how you looked at your identity as this is who I am at my core. I love that.
Thank you.
So, what influenced you to become a life coach?
Well, becoming a life coach actually began with my own journey. In October 2021, I had a friend who had just finished life coach certification, and she decided to offer a free class on making a goal for 2022. And honestly, I signed up only because I loved her, not because I was looking for any life change or anything, just because she was my friend. And what I didn't know and didn't realize at that time was how much it would change my life. That I had spent so much time taking care of everybody else that I did not even know who I was anymore. And I didn't even realize how badly I was doing. And I ended up setting a goal. I wrote it in a post-it right in front of me. It said, by December 31st, 2022, I will have an excellent relationship with myself. And I started this goal and I decided to approach it like I was pursuing a romantic interest. And so my goal got the name Courting Myself. And it changed my life. I went to the doctor for the first time in many years. I made myself just like every area of my life was blessed. And as I felt this change happening, I just had this desire to share with everybody else because as I've talked to so many women, what I learned is that my feelings were not unusual. And I just want to share those tools with everybody because I think we all deserve to love ourselves and just to live the best life possible.
What a beautiful thought about creating a relationship with yourself, with your soul,
Yeah,
and really nurturing that.
exactly. I think so many of us forget that we have a relationship with ourselves. And I think most of the time we're probably neglecting it.
Yeah. in in your intro where you said you help women discover what's keeping them from loving themselves, what do you think some of those things are that keep women from loving themselves?
Um, I think that we culturally have been trained, especially many Christian women, that it's our main job is first maybe to help our keep our husbands happy, and then to take care of our house and our kids. And we go in wholeheartedly on those things. And we forget that taking one of the key things to being able to take care of those people is actually to take care of ourselves first, because when our bucket is empty, we don't have anything to give. And eventually we get burned out, we get tired, we get sick, we do all of those things. And so part of it is cultural. And I also think the other thing that comes up I see is that we're really good at loving other people. We say things to ourselves that we would never ever say to each other. We have terrible self-talk, and we bring ourselves a lot of shame and just angst. And so coaching is one of the things that I think helps us learn first to recognize the way we talk to ourselves, and then second, how to change it.
Mm, that is so important. Coming from internal versus, oh, what is external that
Yeah,
needs to change? And as people, I think, change that internal voice, I mean, I'm sure you've seen how does that external world change when you just start with yourself?
exactly. Because when we then have something wonderful to share, and we can also influence our children if we learn to talk to ourselves in a kind, loving way. We can then teach them, and maybe they won't have to go through some of the struggles that we had to go through. My
Absolutely.
counselor says that when we fix the mom, we fix the family. And so we should focus on the mom first.
Yeah. There is so much pressure for mothers, and how wonderful it is to have tools that generations in the past didn't have for this really complicated world that we live in now.
Exactly.
It's lovely to have these these tools that can support us in our goals and living a fulfilled life, because I totally agree. I think children and husbands also can just sense when the mom is not happy with her life
Yeah,
and with herself, and what a difference it makes. I know for my own life and transformation as well, what a difference that makes.
right. Like the old saying, if the mom ain't happy, then nobody's happy, is so true. But the issue really is, the problem with that statement is that we make it sound like it's the other people's job to make the mom happy. And the truth is, the mom has to make herself happy.
Yeah. And part of that that can be kind of painful is taking personal responsibility, because it's
Exactly.
much easier to blame others for why
It's
you feel so
always
crappy.
easier to blame others, and yet it never works.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
If they would
But
only do all the things we should think they should do, all the world problems would be solved. But
that is
unfortunately, they never do.
very true. So sometimes you have to go through that painful stage of recognizing what is going on within you, and that you actually have the power to change it and
Exactly.
take control of that. So I think that's beautiful. So walk me through how life coaching can benefit people. You talked a little bit about that, about how it can change their thinking, but what would you add to that as far as benefits?
Well, I've had lots of people say, "Well, I don't need a life coach. I'm just fine." But what I would say to them is, maybe you don't need a life coach, but maybe you want a life coach. Because a life coach can help you get the results that you want in your life in the most efficient, direct path possible. Trial and error can take us a long time to get where we want. We can read lots of self-help books and all of those things, but what a life coach does is a little bit different because they take the time to listen to you objectively and help you examine your own brain. And then they tell you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. And sometimes I've left life coaching sessions and I'm like, dang, I'm mad at her. Like, how dare she say those things to me, right? But then I'm like, on further thought, I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe she is right. And but so coaches are trained to talk to their clients and not include any of their own thoughts, to withhold their own judgments, their own opinions, their own beliefs, and really help the client examine their own brain and what they actually want, and then help them find a path forward to get there, whatever it is. And so you don't have to, a coach doesn't have to have the same life experiences because all of the answers are within you and they'll help you find them, which is a beautiful thing because that empowers you to go out and get the life that you really want.
Wow. And we think about how much we value sports coaches and what they do, right? They cheer you on, but also they hold you accountable
Right.
and point out, where techniques or things can just be moved a little bit and switched up to be more effective, to be more
Exactly.
successful. And so I think, and your life, how much more important is that?
Way more than a sporting game.
Exactly. Okay, so walk us through your process of life coaching. So if someone were to come to you, because you're saying everyone has the answers
Mhm.
within them, what would you do to help them get to that place?
And so, the coaching session generally is, well, a person has an idea of what a problem is, something that's bothering them in their life, or it could be a goal. But for example, there's something that's bothering in their life, and we all have these stories about what we think it is and why it's there, and how everybody else should change to fix our problem. Because we rarely think it's us that should be changed in our first story anyway. And a coach will listen to your story and then they will help you pick out which things are actually like true. Like which parts of your story are true and which parts of your story have you maybe made up. Because we all tell our story in our own way, right? There's always different versions of every story. For example, um, one day my husband took our then 4-year-old son to the Boonshoff Museum, which is a children's museum that's local here. And when they got home, I asked my 4-year-old, well, actually, I asked my husband first. I said, how was it? And he said, it was terrible. The worst day ever. Malachi kept disappearing. I couldn't find him. I was so stressed the whole time. And so then I asked Malachi later at bedtime, I said, did you have fun? How was the Boonshoff Museum today? And he said, it was so amazing. Dad and I were playing hide and go seek, and it was the best time ever. Right? So, same exact circumstances and completely different experience
Mm.
from 4-year-old perspective and from dad perspective, right? And actually, even when I told my husband this later, then he saw the humor in it, even though he did it. And so anyway, then just through conversation, we explore our thoughts about that and how that they affect the way that we feel and our ultimate results. And then a discussion about how, we can then choose what we want to think and what we want to, whether that's if we want to think it differently about that situation or just think differently in a way that will create something different. Or sometimes we want to keep our thoughts. Maybe we feel angry and we want to feel angry, but then we know we're choosing it.
Oh,
And
I love
that's
that.
important.
The thought of you get to choose your thoughts.
Yeah. And that's really I think the biggest part about coaching is you get to choose your thoughts and then you get to own them and all that comes with it. And by choosing our thoughts, we get to choose how we feel.
And Seth's thought about Malachi running away was for his safety, right?
Exactly. Like he had good reasons for this thought. Like there was, there wasn't anything wrong with that thought, but but a perfectly good time to change your thoughts. This week, my 7-year-old daughter came to me before school and she was distraught. And she's like, Mom, I have this huge issue. And I was like, oh no, what's and I was like, well, tell me about it. And she said, Mom, when I smile, one of my eyes closes more than the other one. And that's a moment when you want to you have to try not to giggle, but you're also, this is serious for her, right? And I said, really? Show me. And she smiled. And sure enough, one of her eyes closed just a tiny bit more than the other one. And I said, oh, but what I saw is when she smiled, her eyes just twinkled and sparkled the way, when someone really smiles, they do. And I said, Jonathan, when I see your smile, I just feel your joy and I see these sparkles. And I was like, but then I was like, I don't coach my kids, but moms kind of do all the time, right? That's part of being a mom. And I was like, but I think my eyes might do that, Tabitha. And she's like, really? Smile. And I smiled. And she's like, you do, Mom. Your eyes do that too. And I was like, oh, then you're doomed because you got it from me. You're stuck with it, right? But the amazing thing was, and I wasn't even trying to change her thought. It was just a conversation is that she latched onto that. And when she was now like, Mom, that was a joyful thought for her. Yeah, and she ran off to find her little brother to see if he got it from Mom too. So our thoughts have amazing power because she went from being so sad to being so happy in just 1 second. And I didn't even know I was doing it.
Oh, I recognized a situation we had just a few days ago where Brian came to me and said, oh, I have something to tell you and it's kind of disconcerting. And my awareness, my immediate reaction physically was to clench, don't breathe. And my thought was, I didn't even know what it was, but my automatic thought was, I can't handle this. And I love that I can recognize that now.
Yes.
But still, we have these go-to thoughts that have been our friend and our comfort and served us well. And sometimes, like you're saying, choosing your thoughts can keep you being a victim.
Yes.
And in the end, it ended up being a really funny just confusion because he didn't know, he thought Preston had eaten this pizza without cooking it. And so he was worried about Preston and he was going to get sick because Preston's not allowed to use the oven. And in the end, I said, Brian, I ate that pizza before I went to Colorado. No, we're all good. But, we don't even really know the truth or the
Yeah.
whole story just with us.
And
so
we already react before we even, our bodies are already I got to keep her safe and I got to.
Yeah. And so having a life coach, I think, helps you pinpoint that and say, okay, what is your go-to thought? Because like your sweet girl, her go-to thought was oh, this is bad, right?
Right.
It must be terrible if it's different or not the usual or what I'm seeing.
Right, because she's in second grade now and she's starting to realize about popularity and all that stuff. And so she's already starting down the path of I have to be like everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I love that example. Let's see, what else do I want to ask you? You gave me a great example. Okay. So where can people connect with you more about your work? Tell me about that. We're going to have some
Well,
links.
right now I have a Facebook page, Lorraine Wagenman Life Coaching, that you can join. That's probably, I'm still working on a website. So that's the place to find me. I also can be reached by email, Lorraine Wagenman Coaching at gmail.com. And I'm really excited that I'm getting ready to release a free class about courting yourself. And so watch for that to come. It'll be coming out soon.
Oh my
So
goodness,
come
that is
join my
beautiful.
Facebook group and then come and find out about how you can court yourself and build an awesome relationship with yourself.
Oh my goodness. And I think just when I think of the word courting, I think of being excited to be with yourself, being at ease, being looking forward to that like encounter with you and how needed that is in a world where some people cannot even sit with their thoughts because it's so
Exactly.
uncomfortable. And what an amazing thing to be able to not only like yourself, but be excited to be with yourself. And what a beautiful term to use, courting yourself. So we will keep an eye
Yes.
out for
Come,
that
watch out for
coming
it.
soon. I'm so excited for you. So, my focus on my website is to live a life on purpose. And so, what does it mean to you to live a life on purpose? And what is something you're doing to live
Okay.
your life on purpose?
To me, I think living a life on purpose entails first thinking about what you actually want. Like, how do you want to feel? And what are your goals? And because how can we get the life we want if we don't even know what it is? Right. And one way that there's lots of things I do to live my life on purpose, but one of them is that as I was courting myself, I realized that we as women, and I think men too, although I don't have a man brain, I don't know, but I think we all need more connection and we need friends. We can't I know people who think, oh, you get married and you have your spouse and they're like the only friend you'll ever need, right? But it just isn't true. One person, there's no one person who can be the friend we need all of the time. And so I make time every on my calendar when I make for time with friends. So for example, this week, today I'm going out to lunch with some ladies from church, and then I'm going to Costco with my mom. And I have a couple of friends that I schedule one on one time with every week, my besties, and another friend that um, was my neighbor in two different places that we've lived. And we schedule time to talk on the phone every week. Because here's what happens as a mom, if it's not on the calendar, we don't ever find time for that. I also have friends that I schedule time with, not every week, but we try to schedule regularly. And even our children this week, I'm driving to the UC for a college visit with my teenagers. So she'll have to talk to me for like 2 hours unless she manages to put those headphones in and ignore me. So that's one thing that I do intentionally because I realized that that is an important part of just for me to be happy is having that connection in my life.
Wow. And really, how we use our time shows us what's important to us. And taking that intentional time to set up what's really important to you and making sure that that's a priority because living on purpose means you do that. You make your decisions
Exactly.
purposefully. But so many times friends will say, "Oh yeah, we'll catch up sometime." But then that doesn't
Sometime never
ever
comes because life
yeah.
gets in the way.
Yeah. So I love that you've recognized in your heart for you that is something that is a priority to you and I'm sure that you support other women in recognizing that in themselves as well, is how can you connect with other people in purposeful ways to know you're not alone, to have the support you
Exactly.
need, and to build an amazing life.
That's right.
I love that. Thank you so, so much, Lorraine.
Thank you for having me.
You are my very first guest ever to interview, and so this was exceptionally just special to me. So, thank you so much. Mwah.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can check out more over at rachelegbert.com. Your life is too precious to live just by chance or by default. I want you to live your life on purpose. We will see you next time.